Before you enjoy this video, why not consider signing up for an account at PAX? Whether you're a player, agent, club or scout, PAX is for you. Create your free profile and connect with those in the industry today. For more information, please visit us at www.paxsports.com. That's www.paxsports.com. Now please go ahead and enjoy our video presentation. Alright guys, welcome to NextGenRugga. So this is our first ever Q&A that we're going to be doing today. And I sent out a bunch of messages or statuses on my YouTube channel as well as the Instagram page. Basically saying to you guys that you can ask me any question you want, and what I'll do is do my best to answer them. Now, you guys will notice that with all my videos, I don't edit the audio. And the reason for that is I wanted to almost be like we're all in a pub having a couple of beers and talking a bit about rugby. You know what I mean? I'm having my say, then you guys have your say, and we sort of interact. Obviously, if you're in school, you won't be having a beer. You'll be having a nice ice cold Coca-Cola and joining in the conversation as well. So what I've done with this as well, guys, is that I haven't done a lot of research beforehand on a lot of the questions. I have given some of them some thought, but I haven't jotted anything down on paper or anything like that because I really want it to be as informal as possible. Excuse me. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to click that subscribe button as well as bell notification, and then every time a new video comes out, you'll be the first to know. So let's get into the structure first, guys. So the first part is basically frequently asked questions. So there's a lot of questions that obviously got asked multiple times. And what I've done is I just put about 5 or 6 of them down. So it's like, you know, there might be 10 questions on the same topic, and I just basically put it in a nutshell. And I'll answer those first, and then the second part will be going through the Instagram and YouTube questions. Now, I can already feel this is going to be a very long video. So if you want to press pause, go grab a cup of coffee or whatever, go ahead and do it, because yeah, this is definitely going to be a long one. I'm trying to answer everyone's questions as much as I can. So first thing, why school rugby? And I would probably respond with why not school rugby. The thing is that if you're watching Super Rugby over the last couple of years, guys, I mean, rugby was almost lost to me, or I was lost to rugby, whichever way you want to look at it, because I was just getting sick of it. The whole thing, time and time again, seeing South African teams going over to Australia and New Zealand getting thumped, and knowing that a New Zealand team's going to win the tournament beforehand. So that takes out a big chunk of the rugby calendar. So I wasn't really following rugby that much. And then obviously the World Schools Festival came up, and I saw some of the rugby there, and I was just like, wow, okay, I need to watch more of this. Definitely need to watch more of this. And the whole thing with me by nature is that, once something piques my interest, I'll do a bit of research into it. And once I do my research into it properly, then all of a sudden I'm hooked. You know what I mean? I need to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's ultimately what's happened over here. I think the thing as well is that, like a lot of you guys, I was searching for stuff on YouTube, and I only really came across, the channels like School Sports Live and DigiTV and all the rest of that. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic, don't get me wrong. But there was no one really talking about it so much. And if you take a look at, South African school rugby is very well served on the website end of things. I mean, you've got School of Rugby, you've got schoolboyrugby.co.za, you've got ruggers.co.za, you've got some fantastic websites out there that are great resources, and they have great communities. I mean, if you go to schoolboyrugby.co.za, just look at the comment section. There's a lot of guys there that know their stuff. But I just felt there was something lacking in the YouTube space, so I thought, hell, let me give it a go, and pretty much here we are, you know what I mean? So that's pretty much why I'm covering specifically. So it's a niche, and it's something that I've become passionate about more and more, and something I think I will continue to become more and more passionate about. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Then next question, do you charge players to be featured? Absolutely not. I know there are guys out there that do it, but it's hilarious. I mean, you got a guy that will go and charge a player 1,500 Rand or 2,000 Rand to do a video for them and then feature them on YouTube, and the video ends up getting like 50 views. Or, I mean, if it's like amazing for the guy, he gets like 200 views, you know what I mean? And it's quite shameful actually in a way, because the footage doesn't belong to you. I mean, the footage on from School Sports Live and DigiTV, Super Sport, all the rest of that type of stuff, it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the rights holders, right? So why the hell are you going and charging players a fortune? Fortune is a matter of perspective, but why are you charging them 1,500 Rand or 2,000 Rand, with other people's footage, when they could easily do it themselves, number one, and number two, does it really help the player? I mean, if you're going on a YouTube channel that's got 50 subscribers or something like that and being featured, what's the point, really? Now, I can understand if you're going to do like a visual CV or something like that. That's something I'm thinking of getting into. I think that's one of the next questions, actually. But yeah, it's something I'm thinking of helping players out with, and obviously I would charge for that, but I'd never use it on a YouTube channel or anything like that, because the footage doesn't belong to me. That's ultimately the whole point. It belongs to School Sports Live, DigiTV, Super Sport, anyone like that, and that's why I don't monetize it. I don't charge players. And basically, if I think a player is a huge prospect or a huge talent, I'll generally contact them directly and then say to them basically, hey, would you like to be featured on the channel? It'd be fantastic to have you featured. And if they say yes, then I feature them. And if they say no, then I don't feature them. And a lot of the times the players send me the clips themselves. So that's how the whole process essentially works. So no, I'm not some guy making money off the players. And I give them a hell of a lot more exposure than all the other channels do anyway. That's the funny thing. You end up charging a guy 1,500, 2,000 Rand for your 50 subscriber YouTube channel, and what is it doing for him? He's not getting any exposure. It's pretty much a joke. That was the next question. Video CVs. I've had a lot of guys asking me to help them with this. I'm still learning a little bit about how to do it effectively, because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100% effectively. And if it does come about, what I'll probably end up doing is like doing them a reel, and I will charge for that, because that'll take time. You know what I mean? I think that'll take a bit of time, but I won't put it on the YouTube channel or anything like that. It'll basically be the player, and I would have to say to the player that they would have to get permission from the rights holders before we go ahead and do something like that. Then I'll send it to the player, and what he can do is he can do what he wants with the material. I don't want it to be a situation where a player thinks he can pay me money to be featured on the YouTube channel. I think that type of exposure, because it is good exposure for the guys, I think that has to be earned, and I don't think it's fair if some guy comes along from a wealthy private school and offers me $3,000 or $4,000 to say good things about him and to feature him on the channel and all the rest of it, because not everyone has access to that. It has to be a level playing field, and ultimately your talent has to win out, not how much money you have in your pocket. That's the reason why I've done everything I have to level the playing field as much as I can. Now, I'm not some saint, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? I have got plans to eventually leverage this into a business, but the business ultimately will benefit the players, right? And obviously all those stakeholders involved. If I'm going to be asking people for money, there has to be some benefit to them as well. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Next question is the GOAT. Who do I think is the greatest of all time? And I get asked this all the time, and it's a very easy answer for me. It's Richie McCaw. I mean, he is the GOAT. Anyone else that says that says someone else is the GOAT, they're mistaken. They're just completely wrong. I don't care what era you talk about. I don't care anything. That is simply the best rugby player I've ever seen in my life. And it hurts me to say it as a South African, because he made me suffer as a South African fan for I don't know how long. But Richie McCaw is the GOAT. And anyone that wants a question, that is insane. Next question, in the terms of frequently asked questions, who do you think is the most underrated player ever? And this one I had to give some thought. And a lot of you guys will probably have never heard of the player that I'm going to mention now, but he's a guy named Eric Herbert. Okay. Now, Eric Herbert, he played in the Currie Cup for the Free State. I think he reached the final there as well. But he played up until his late 30s, guys, and he played for the Griffins most of his career. I mean, I'm mentioning someone from the Griffins right now. I want you to think about that. Now, the Griffins aren't terrible at school level or anything like that. I mean, they produce some good teams and good schools, but generally, like a lot of the smaller unions, their top players end up going to other unions. But Eric Herbert, for me, I still to this day don't know how this oak never became a Springbok. To me, I thought he was the perfect fly-off. I mean, he hardly ever missed a kick. His tactical kicking was on point. And I think if he was playing in modern day rugby, there'd be a much greater appreciation of him because there'd be a lot more cameras on him. But anytime I saw this guy play, I just thought to myself, how do people not appreciate this guy more? To me, he was one of the best rugby players I've ever seen with my own eyes. And I was extremely young then. So that's how much of an impression he made of me. So yeah, my most underrated player of all time, Eric Herbert from the Northern Free State Griffins. Yeah. So try and find that on Google. Next question. Which agency should I choose? And I get this all the time. And it's hard for me to answer because I don't know too much about the agency game. So I'll tell you that there are 3 agencies that have signed up with PAX. Okay, I've emailed every single agency except for one agency. We're not going to talk too much about that now, but every single other agency I've emailed and I said, you can create a profile for free on PAX. It's not going to cost you anything. You can start connecting with players. Only 3 agencies took me up on that offer. So the one agency is F7 Sports Management. It's a startup from the Western Cape, run by a guy named Shafiq Mouton. The other agency is Bart Schoeman's agency. You might have seen Bart Schoeman quite a few times on Ruggers. Very knowledgeable guy. Was involved in recruitment at the Lions, and now he's an agent. He's actually Johan Muller. If you guys remember that video I did on Unbreakable and the Johan Muller story, that's his agent. So he's got some great players that he's working with at the moment. He's also pretty much a startup since leaving the Lions. And then the last agency is Sportif. It's a global agency, guys. They got offices in the UK, they got offices in Australia, New Zealand, they got connections in Japan, and they've got some of the brightest young talent in the country on their books. So that they've also chosen to work with PAX. So those are the 3 guys that have chosen to work with PAX. I'm not necessarily saying you have to choose that agency. I think the thing is, if you've got the talent, the agencies will come to you, right? The agencies know their stuff. They've got scouts, they've got networks, they've got all of that type of stuff. And I think the thing is, if you're sending an agency 100 videos of yourself, you're not doing yourself any favors. Also, when you're under 16, if you're an elite player, they'll come to you. If you think you got what it takes to become an elite player, just wait a bit. They'll find you. You know what I mean? You got this obsession at 16 years old or something like that to find an agent when you should be focusing on your rugby. Because if you focus on your rugby and performing on your rugby, the agents will come find you. There's no doubt about it. So it's sort of a combination. It's like if you're an elite player, this question is pertinent. Which agency should I choose? Because you're going to have your choice of multiple agencies. But if you're asking the question when no agencies approached you, you got the wrong perspective. You shouldn't be thinking about which agency should I choose. You should be thinking, what do I need to work on in my game in order to be in a situation where multiple agencies are making me offers. And when we get to that stage, then you can make a choice and an informed decision. So if I was an elite player and all the agencies approached me, first thing I'd look at is, what do I personally want? Okay, do I want to go overseas? Do I want to stay in the country? What my future goals are. Do I want to study first? Are they going to be patient and, steer me in the right direction, for example? Because, you might want to go study for 3 or 4 years and you might find an agent might push you hard to go get a contract because he's getting a commission, whereas some agencies might say, right, get your studying done. We're still going to be there for you. We're still going to support you. And when you're ready to sign a contract with a major union, we'll go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? So, you'll instinctively know who the good guys are and who the guys are out there that are trying to take advantage of you. Also, go look on the websites. Take a look at their websites. Take a look at what they're about, who their clients are, their history. Take a look at their social media. Do they have 8,000 followers or do they have 800 followers? Do your research in terms of players that have already signed. If someone in your school's already signed for an agency, go chat to that guy and say, right, why did you choose the agency? What's going on over there? And also, I'd say, don't be. One of the biggest things, don't be that guy. And by that guy, I mean, don't be a guy that signs a contract with an agency because they buy you a pair of boots or they offer you some money on the, in a brown envelope or something like that. Don't be that guy. That's short-sighted. If you're looking for material possessions straight away at 16, which is very easy to do. I was 16. If someone came and offered me a pair of boots, I probably would sign with them. You know what I mean? But I was pretty much an idiot. So don't be like me. And really think hard about your future, and especially talk to your parents and try and listen to your parents. It's something else I didn't do a lot of as well. So listen to your parents, talk through it as a family, and then make the right decision that feels right for you ultimately. That's just my opinion. But like I said, if you're an elite player, you're gonna have this question that you're gonna need to answer. But if no agencies approach you, what the hell are you even asking the question? Which agency should I choose? Focus on your bloody rugby. Next question. What has led to the success of the channel? And it's funny because I'm about to hit 6,000 subs, which is not huge in terms of the YouTube space. But I think because it's a niche, it might be quite an achievement, so to speak. But I'd say a big portion of the success, guys, has to do with carrying that sports marketing. I have to give them a massive shout out because they basically the first couple of videos that I uploaded it because it wasn't anywhere else. So I took the time, I did the editing, I did all the rest of it, and I put it on the YouTube channel, forgot about it. Then when I started seeing some subscribers come in, I started producing my own content, and it grew from there. And then they allowed me to put. Then I got in, they got in touch with me. We had a chat and all the rest of it, and they basically allowed me to put the game highlights on for this year as well. And they've been very supportive of the channel, and I've been supportive of them as well. I've put them in touch with people, they've put me in touch with people. So I have to say they had a major part to play, in the channel growing like it has, and I couldn't have done much of this without them. So maybe I could have, but it would take a lot more time. But John Phelps and Sam both have been absolutely fantastic, and we still keep in touch now. They don't feed me any sensitive information though. There's a lot of times I ask questions like, where's the next tournament going to be? Or, I ask them about some insider gossip, and, they don't really do that type of stuff, which is to their credit. But in terms of helping the channel grow and me trying to help the World Schools Festival grow through this channel, I think it's been a great partnership so far. And I think they've contributed a hell of a lot to the growth of the channel. So that's definitely a major part of it. Next question. Okay, so now we get into the questions from the various social media sites. So Phoenix the Step Jockey, what inspired you to care so much about school rugby? You created websites, packs for schoolboys. What makes you care so much? I think the whole thing is I think in South Africa we got an abundance of talent. It's weird, we got a talent problem. We just got too much talent. So I just thought to myself, I'd love to, be able to give these kids an opportunity to be connected to other stakeholders out there. And also, there's a lot of agencies that might miss out on players. So I wanted to create a platform where everyone can sort of connect with each other. And, if you can change one life, I think you've done well. You know what I mean? So hopefully what PAX can do is change a couple of kids' lives. And at the same time, I'm hoping that it can develop into a sustainable business model, because I'd love to be able to spend my time just researching and talking rugby and, helping out youngsters, to reach their potential and their dreams. That's ultimately what I'd like to do. I was meant to be opening up a hotel right now in Spain, but COVID slowed that down. And the more I'm doing this, the more I don't want to be involved in the hotel business in Spain. I want to be involved in this industry right here. It's exciting, it's dynamic, it's changing every year, and I'm really going to give it a full go. I'll put some decent money into this thing. So the website PAX has been redesigned. It's going in a new direction in terms of the lessons I've learned from the initial design. And it will be launching very soon, and I think it's going to be a game changer, but it's only going to be a game changer with the support of guys like you as well. Next question, CC Baller on Instagram, under 15 prospects. Now, I'm getting a lot of questions about this. So the reason I did the under 16 prospects list was because there was no Grand Como this year. And so it is a unique situation. It's the same reason why I'm doing so many player highlights. If you look at last year, I did hardly any player highlights, but a lot of the rugby is not going to be played this year, so this gives players a chance to get a massive push, and I'm doing my best to help them. Plus, I'm in lockdown right now, guys. I'm bored as hell. So it gives me something to do as well, and I enjoy doing the highlights. I enjoy giving the youngsters exposure. But under 15, under 14, under 13, that sort of level, right now, I don't feel comfortable about covering that because I think you should still be enjoying your rugby then. You know what I mean? I think you should be enjoying it with your mates. You should be playing the game, enjoying the game. And then if you want to start taking it very seriously, you take it up a level in under 16. And under 17, you can sort of decide whether you want to go pro or not. You know what I mean? But I think to do under 15 prospects or do under 15 rankings, I mean, if you look at the under 16 video, I didn't do a rankings. I didn't do these are the top 15 players in the country. I just said those are 15 amazing under 16 talents, which they are. You know what I mean? They are amazing talents. But it depends what the market dictates. So we'll see in the future, you know what I mean? If parents feel comfortable with it, if the schools feel comfortable with it, if the kids feel comfortable with it, maybe we will start covering prospects from younger age groups and all the rest of it. But I also don't want to put any unnecessary pressure on the guys at this age. I mean, just enjoy the game, have fun with your mates. You're this age once, it's never coming back. So just build memories rather than, trying to compete for top 100 lists. I mean, that'll come. When you're under 15, and you show talent, you will be noticed. And once you get to under 17, under 18, I'm going to 100% cover you on the channel. There's no doubt about it. I will cover you and I will mention your name and, give you some exposure. But I think that has to be earned, and that earns from rising through the different age group levels. So that's pretty much my opinion on it. Next question, Instagram, Anele Sele Ndosi 7. To hear your view about it, how do you beat Grey? Okay, so if I knew how to beat Grey College at rugby, tactically, I would probably be on my way to becoming a future Springbok coach. Because everyone's got that question. When you're talking about a school that has a historical win rate of 90%, it's a question everyone asks. So let me give it a go, and I'm not going to tell you this is going to be a good answer by any stretch of the imagination, because like I said, if I knew, I would be a professional coach. Okay, so in terms of beating Grey College, there are two factors at play here. Number one's talent, number two's tactics. Okay, so you need equal talent. So you're looking at right now a pool of 5 schools maybe that have a similar level of talent to Grey College. Probably not the same, but a similar level. And then those schools would have to get their tactics right. Okay, so in terms of tactics, I would say very, very negative, ugly rugby probably would help you come close. I think if you've got an abundance of talent, you can beat them at attractive rugby. So if you've got a dream team, I mean, there have been great teams of the past that have been beaten. So if you've got a dream team, and you got some of the best players, in the history of your school, yeah, you can do it. But if we're talking tactically, I think the closest I saw someone pulling off a tactical masterstroke was Piwe Normal last year, Grey versus Selborne. And if you take a look at that game, my sort of analysis on it is that Selborne held on to possession as much as possible. Okay, they try to starve Grey off possession. They try to make sure that the outside backs didn't get much ball. And what they did was they ran from everywhere. So they retained possession. So it wouldn't be a case of kicking it to the back three, which are, a very dangerous back three. So basically running, maintaining possession, gaining territory slowly but surely, playing for the penalties, getting more territory. That was the sort of tactic that was at play. Also, what I see in the Grey pack is that they sacrifice raw power for mobility. So they like to play the game at a very quick pace, right? So if you take a look at their front row this year, I mean, it's a very athletic front row. I mean, Tillman Nivoud caught a wing last year. Ricardo Ferri, very comfortable on the flank last year. I thought Corny was going to be the prop this year, but I see they went with Jean Als, and he's great. I mean, he's very solid in the scrums. Doesn't look like your typical prop at all. You know what I mean? But very mobile. So I think if you went with a team of like big boys that could starve the backline of ball and retain possession and bully that pack, which will still be hard. Don't get me wrong. You could slow them down and take them out of their comfort zone. And then you'd basically, have to look at, basically putting points on the board. So basically getting possession, playing for penalties, kicking upfield for possession, another penalty, kick over the posts, build yourself into a 9-0 lead, cross that psychological barrier of 7, because if you're 6-0 ahead, that you know that you can score a try under the poles, get a conversion. One score basically means you ahead. I think 9-0, there's a psychological impact to that. So I think if you go 9-0 up, what you might do is you might take them out of their comfort zone. By taking them out of their comfort zone, you might make them more prone to making mistakes, because you're taking them out of a situation where they're normally comfortable to play. And then what you can do is with some speedy backs, now they've got speedy backs as well, but if you've got some speedy backs, taking them out of their comfort zone, maybe they take some unnecessary risks. Maybe you can get a try against the run of play. Next thing you know, you're 14 or 16-0 up, and the game's different. The most important aspect, though, is conditioning, because that might work for the first half and a little bit of the second half. But these guys are extremely well conditioned. They're the best conditioned rugby school in the country. I don't know what the name of their conditioning coach is again, but this guy's like a master. If you take a look at when they peak at exactly the right moment. It's almost like All Black style, where in the last 20 minutes they just completely run away with the game. So these guys are happy to concede some points and some possession and all the rest of that, because they know, because of the mobility and the fitness of the pack, they've got an advantage over bigger packs, because they tire out. And when they tire out, they start increasing the pace of the game slowly but surely, and then they absolutely punish you in the last 15 to 20 minutes. So there's a lot to it. But I'd say that in a nutshell, that's how I would view things. And I'm not saying it would work, because Wessel du Plessis is a fantastic coach, and he probably knows that the coaches look at it from that angle. And if they start switching to that type of game, he'll adjust his tactics accordingly. So you've got to try and think not 1 or 2 steps ahead of du Plessis. You've got to try and think 5 steps or 6 steps ahead of him. And even that is difficult. So, yeah, you asked a very difficult question over there, pal. Very difficult question. Next question. This is on YouTube from Grant Banwell. Morning, been loving your post while in lockdown. Thanks, Grant. My son plays tight head for Sax, and as I've watched a number of games over the last few years, I was wondering, where do you see schoolboy rugby heading in the next 5 years? What would you advise a young schoolboy to do if they want to pursue rugby after school? Thank you. Okay, so where do I see rugby in 5 years? I definitely see it becoming. I definitely think it'll start becoming more professionalized, for want of a better word. I think there's massive commercial opportunities in it, and ultimately you've got to listen to what the market wants, and the market is going to want school rugby more and more, and I truly do believe that, because the guys, they're playing with absolute passion and they play with no fear. It's very entertaining rugby to watch. Also, the other aspect about school rugby is that it changes every year. You get a whole new crop of players coming in every year, so it's dynamic. It's always changing. And I think that's where there's a lot of commercial appeal in it. I hope it doesn't change too much in that direction, because we still want to see the youngsters enjoying their game. But I definitely think it'll become bigger and bigger, and I think we'll start seeing more, international teams playing each other and all the rest of that type of stuff. Because school rugby is basically like the academy system or college football, high school football in the States. And I think there'll be a lot more money pouring into it, because there'll be a lot more demand. So that's where I think it's going to head. And in terms of what I'd advise the young schoolboy if they want to pursue rugby after school, would basically be be realistic about your level of talent, right? I mean, you must see some of the messages I get, guys. I get messages from guys who say all sorts of stuff, and then you look at the footage, you're like, what am I watching here? You know what I mean? They're just a little bit deluded. So the whole thing is that between you and your son is like you got to have a hardcore, honest conversation about what the talent level is, and then in terms of the talent level, it's like I think you got to plot a pathway forward. So you basically have to say, right, we can look at going to let's look at the scenario, and let's say that your son is tier 2 Craven Week level. I'm not saying he is, I'm just saying for example. So let's say he could play Craven Week conceivably for Boland or for the Falcons or someone like that. No disrespect to these unions, but you know what I mean. It's a lot harder to get into a Western Province or Lions team than these unions. So if he's that level, I would say, right, take a look at if there's no union offers that come in, take a look at varsity rugby, and then take a look at, go see the different varsities. So see what the quality of their programs like, see what the quality of their props are like. Is there a pathway forward for him? Because if he gets an education and thereafter pursues a career in rugby, he's got nothing to lose really. There's also the option of going overseas. To go pursue an education overseas and playing rugby there, or maybe take a gap year, take 2 years out, go play some overseas rugby and see where that heads. So there's a multitude of options out there, and I think the whole thing is to find the right agency. It's something we talked about a little bit earlier. The agency thing is to find the right agency. And not even necessarily the right agency. Let's say an agency won't sign you up. The agencies aren't dickheads. You know what I mean? Most of them are really good guys. And you just got to chat to them and say, right, what would you advise? Because they know more than I'll ever know. They've seen players go from under 13 Craven Week all the way to the Springboks. They've seen it, they've been there, they've done it. So if you speak to them, a lot of them, they're not going to charge you for advice. They'll say, right, this is your talent level. I'd recommend you do this and that, and then move forward. So there's a lot of guys out there. Find a mentor. You know what I mean? Find a mentor that's been there, done that, and ask him to help guide you through everything. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I'll definitely go with the mentors more than what I'd say, because what I'd say would be an opinion. If like agencies and certain old players and all the rest of it, they've been there and done it. So they'll definitely be able to give you the best advice in terms of this. But thanks for the question, Grant, and I hope that your son's dreams and goals are reached. But I think the surest way of that is, like I said, to find the right mentor. Next question from Running Rugby 1861. Do you think the gap between the top academy schools and the rest is growing? I like the question, the academy schools. I think it is. And I think there's always going to be the big five, the top schools that are always going to be the top schools. And then I think the rest is ebbs and flows. I mean, you take a look at Maritzburg College, they one of the best programs in the country, dropped down a lot. Now they look like they're coming back up. Gasfontein wasn't even heard of 20 years ago as a rugby school. Now they're one of the top rugby schools in the country. So yeah, I think I think that it might be it's a case of like the gap between the schools that aren't pouring resources into rugby is definitely growing, as opposed to the schools that are pouring resources into rugby, and I think that's just logical. So if schools start seeing the commercial value in attracting students to the school because they have good rugby programs, then they can put some money behind it. But if you're an independent school and the fees are like $100,000 a year, it's tough to bring in a team of 10 to 15 players to build a superstar dream team and all the rest of it. And if you only got 300, 400 students at your school, depth will be an issue as well. So there's a lot of factors. I mean, if you take a look at the super schools, the Pole schools, for example, Grey College, all the rest of that, they've built up their rugby programs, and Porter's obviously as well. They've built up their rugby programs over many, many, many years, and they've put a lot of time and effort into it, and there has been financial resources put into it, and if when you build up a program like that, people naturally want aspiring rugby players naturally want to go to your program because they know it's one of the best programs in the country and they'll get noticed. So, if you take a look at American football as well, you've probably got 5 or 6 college teams that are very dominant. And that's because they built up their programs, and kids, leaving high school want to end up going there and playing for those teams because there's prestige attached to it. So, if there's a school out there that wants to improve their rugby program, you've got to put a lot of funds behind it because you probably only see the benefits of that 5, 10, 20 years down the line. So it takes time. Next question from David Perry. Who's the best player in their own position, respectively, for you, from props to fullbacks in the past decade, 2010s? So that's like a world team for the past decade, David. I was going to answer this in the video, but I thought to myself, you know what? It's such a good question that what I'll do is I'll give it its own video. So thanks a lot for that question. Next question, Caleb Schwagele. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, man. Are you going to make a 2020 SA Schools prediction team like last year's? 100% I will. I'm just going to give it some time because you never know what can happen. Maybe 2-3 games get played and they can select an SA Schools team. Maybe Sora will select their own unofficial team. But if I do it, it will be towards a similar period as it would normally be. So I'm not going to do it too early. Next question from MRTS. Thoughts on Marcel Muller, George Cronje, Jan-Hendrik Wessels, and Craig Volhiter returning to South African teams? I think it's absolutely fantastic. Great news. Look, I don't know if many of you guys have been to France, but the French aren't. What can I say about the French? I've got a lot of French mates. Okay, so the way I'll describe my friendship with my French mates is very simple. It was hard to get through that initial barrier. It's not an open, warm, embracing people like the Canadians, for example. A Canadian, you can become his best mate in 2 days. They're very, very nice, friendly people. The French are, and I'm generalizing here, not so much. So you have to knock down some barriers first, and then eventually you're welcome to the open arms. And I'm still friends with these guys that I've known for 10 to 15 years. You know what I mean? And if you go to France, you can see that. It's not an easy country to go to and assimilate into because it's extremely foreign. So if the youngsters want to go overseas and play some rugby and experience it, you got to go to the Anglophone countries. You got to go to Australia, New Zealand, or the UK or Ireland, something like that. Because going to France is it's a major culture shock. And to go from an elite rugby school and living at home or being at boarding school where everything's easy and taken care of for you, to go into a French club in a country where you don't understand the language, you don't understand the culture, and you're 19 years old or turning 19 years old, it's got to be difficult. I wouldn't move to France if you paid me. I would not move to France if you paid me. I've been looking at Spain. Even that is difficult. But France itself, no. It's too much. As soon as they hear English come out of your mouth, there's an assumption about you, and I don't like that. And again, I'm generalizing, but I think it would have been very difficult for these guys to assimilate. And I know some of them are staying over there, but yeah, to me, the assimilation would be very difficult. Rather come here, play your rugby at youth level, be close to friends and family. Then earn a big money move there when you're 24, 25 years old, even in your late 20s. But I don't think this is going to stop the French clubs from taking our youngsters. But the one thing with the French clubs is that they've got to sort their crap out. They've got to sort it out, because I've heard via the grapevine that it was not good for the youngsters when they arrived there, in terms of the accommodations being offered, and in terms of the club looking after them and trying to integrate them and all the rest of that type of stuff. You actually need to employ a South African guy over there that can speak French, understands the area, understands the customs. He's got a phone on him 24/7, so if the youngster needs anything, it's basically available to them, and to basically hold their hand and guide them through the whole process, because it can be very intimidating. So when you're putting these guys in a hostile type environment, and the thing is, I don't give a damn, guys. I'm not paid by any French clubs or anything like that, so I can say what I want. And if they want to attract South African youngsters, they got to make sure that they've got a handler there that can help the guards through the difficult processes, because it is difficult to go to a foreign country, and help them along the way. Because if they don't give the South African youngsters at least that opportunity and really care about them and really help them and really make them feel at home, you're not going to get South African youngsters going there in the future. So, yeah, they got to sort it out, because, and I'm not saying it was the case with these guys necessarily. I'm not only talking about the youngsters that went overseas last year. I'm talking about youngsters from Fiji. I'm talking about youngsters from Australasia that have gone over to the French academies and all the rest of it. I've got a decent network of people that I talk to, and I can assure you that the academies over there aren't well known for taking care of the young players. And I'll say it out loud because, like I said, I'm not beholden to them. I'm not beholden to the academies in the least over there. So they need to sort their crap out and take care of the youngsters. Otherwise, more and more players, more and more South Africans will look to other markets to go in. You can read your own reports about that stuff if you want to do your research. There was an article that was posted about the top academies in terms of facilities, in terms of taking care of the youth and all the rest of it. Go take a look at that list. Take a look at some of the clubs that are guilty there. In rugby, we always try and be very nice with each other, very polite with each other, and always try and say the right thing, to keep the peace and, make everything okay. It's horseshit. You got to tell the truth. If something isn't good and it's not helping the youngsters, tell the truth so the people that are responsible can ultimately, change their ways. And like I said, I'm not necessarily talking about these youngsters here specifically. I'm just saying what I've heard about how the French academies treat the youngsters over there. I heard it's not the best, guys. That's what I heard. So I'm glad these guys are coming home. And I hope to see them all in the green and gold for SA Under 20 next year, because they're all amazing players. Next question, Bronston Agullis 10. There's some players missing in that under 16 prospects. Yes, there are. I contacted some players and they said they didn't want to be featured, which I respect. And I said to them, next year I am featuring you because you're under 17. It's open season. They said, fine, but right now, not really. And it wasn't the best under 16s in the country. Like I said, it wasn't the top 15 under 16s in the country. It was just 15 great prospects. And those were the guys that I managed to get hold of, and some of the guys that got recommended to me by certain scouts. So that's why they were on the list. But it's not the only list. So just understand that. Next question. Okay, Ernest H., I told you I'd answer all your questions, right? So here we go. Okay. You had a lot of questions, old Ernest, eh? Do you think Willemse should make a move to the Bulls, quite established the Stormers, all the rest of it? Look, it depends of where they want to play him, okay? If they want to develop him as a fly-off, if he wants to be a fly-off, Jake White likes fly-offs that are creative and have space, like to run and have pace. That's why Jaco van der Westhuizen, of all people, was selected in 2004. So he likes that sort of player. I think you can develop him very well like that. If the whole intention is to develop him as a fullback, I think he was fine staying at the Stormers. He knows the area, he knows the people, knows the culture, and John Dobson is a great coach. But if he does want to develop as a fly-off, I'd definitely say work under Jake, go to the Bulls. Thoughts on moving Galant to outside centre. I think he'd make a good 13. Good lines, distributes well. Older version of Similani. They're quite similarly built as well. If Galant moves to outside centre, that would leave space for Willemse to own the number 15 if he moves to the Bulls. Not a bad idea, I think. Not a bad idea. I think we're quite stacked at fullback in terms of talent. And your question number 3 was, do you think South Africa lacks depth in centre positions? So, maybe they do. I don't think we're the strongest at centre. And I think Rassie recognised that. That's why he's chosen to go with the tactics that he has. I mean, we don't have a Nonu and Conrad Smith type combination to work with. So, the tactics are to make sure that the ball doesn't spread too much. Also cutting inside for the tackles and all the rest of it. It's very, very interesting. But I think, look, Galant played SA Schools at centre, so I don't think the transition would be that difficult for him. Question 4, who do you think would be a possible successor to Kolisi at Springbok captain? Asking this, and Sam Came just became the new All Blacks captain. Do you think they'd want to create a Khaleesi kind of effect on top of Merritt, someone black and maybe growing up financially disadvantaged? It's a tough one. I'd like to see a story's inspiring, but I don't think he was selected as captain just because he's black and disadvantaged. I think it's because of his character. The whole thing with a captain in the modern game, how I feel personally, and what Khaleesi's role is. I think there's multiple leaders in the team, and a lot of people that are very vocal. And what I like about Sia is that he says enough but not too much. That's the thing, even when I'm in meetings in terms of business and all the rest of it, guys, it's like I really lose patience. It's like don't talk rubbish for 10 minutes when you could just say something in 1 minute to make yourself sound smarter. So I think, the silent leadership, the strong silent type, old school, I like that characteristic about Khaleesi. But in terms of a successor, I think, off the top of my head, I think Pepsi Buthelezi has what it takes to become a Springbok captain in the future. But there's one guy, he's in school now, so I don't want to comment on him, but there's one guy that I do really feel that will become a Springbok captain one day. He's a loose forward and amazing player, and I think he will become a Springbok captain. I'm very excited to see, because that's a big call. But I don't like to talk about guys that are in school and future Springbok situation and all the rest of it. I mean, I've long had that policy. Let them get their matric done and get their marks, and once they're out of school, then I can start talking about their role in the Springboks. But I think if I had to guess someone playing now actively as a pro, I'd say Buthelesi's got a good chance. But yeah, like I said, there's one guy still in school that I really feel will become a Springbok captain one day. You can guess down below, but I'm not going to tell you. Number 5, do you think Hakjiva Diamani should play in the back line? Which position do you think he should play? Pace and power suggest that he'd make a great wing and maybe even a centre. Tough one. I mean, I still have nightmares about Pierce Spiss playing on the wing against the British Lions. That didn't work out. I'm not a big fan of forwards transitioning to backline players. I don't think it works all that well very often. It's a difficult one. If they do it while they're still in school, there's still possibilities. But doing it as a pro, the dynamic changes quite a bit. I've seen far more success when backs transition to forwards. Than I've seen the other way around. So look, he's ultimately got to decide where his path to Springbok colours are, and also he's got to think about what he wants in his career, because that's a tough one, right? Do you want to go all in, or do you want to see how things play out? Because if you want to go all in and say, right, I think there's an opportunity for me as a Springbok centre or a Springbok wing, I'm going all in. So I'm focusing all my energy on being in that position. If it doesn't work out, you could become an average player as a wing and centre at Currie Cup level or Super Rugby level. Whereas I think if he continues on his current path as a loose forward, I think he'll become a squad player for the Springboks eventually. Not a starter, but a squad player. And I think that's the whole thing. Like, look, the fact that we're even talking about should he play in the back line, should he stay at the forwards, shows you where there are gaps in his game. And the thing is, he needs to decide himself. Do I want to go all in to become a Springbok wing, or am I going to stay as a loose forward? Because if I'm at the Lions, for example, and they say, hey, why don't we try you here? Why don't we try you there? I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And then we'll see how it goes on. Or if I'm confident that I can be a flanker and I can reach the top as a flanker, then ultimately I'll say, well, if you guys don't believe in me as a flanker, I'm going to the Cheetahs, or I'm going to the Sharks, or I'm going to the Kings. Cheers, see you later. So it's a tough one. But I can see what you mean. He's got the athletic ability, so I see what you mean. But I don't know. Just not a big fan of that sort of positional change, even though he is still relatively young. Number 6, why do you think the Kings aren't doing well, and how do you think they could improve? Seems like it's a systemic problem, and it's hard to attract good players to a club that isn't winning. The only way to turn the Kings into a super club, so to speak, is to spend the money. You're not going to do it through investment in youth. I think they're going in the wrong direction there. they've got some really great youth prospects that they've taken to the Kings, and they're going to bring through the system. But the problem is that if you're not an established club and a respected club, ultimately what will happen is that you'll be a stepping stone to a bigger club. So if I'm a youth prospect, I go to the Kings, I'm guaranteed to break into the first team at the age of 20, 21 because there isn't a lot of competition for places. I'm doing that because I want to be at the Bulls by 24, 25 years old, not because I want to stay at the Kings. It's the same thing as Premier League soccer, right? You go and you join a club like, say, West Ham United, where you will start games and you'll get noticed because you want to earn a move to Real Madrid, Manchester United, or one of those clubs. So there are two options there, right? You can basically be a club that gives youth opportunity and sell them on for a profit for the transfer fee and use that to generate income, like a Tottenham Hotspur model, so to speak. You're not going to win anything like that, but that is one option. You might get limited success, but I don't think you'll become a real threat in terms of trophies and all the rest of that. And the only other way is to build, an exceptional program from the top down to the bottom. You hire the best minds. You hire a big name blue chip coach like a Jake White, a Nick Mallett, a Wayne Smith. Someone like that. That's going to cost you a ton of money because he can attract the marquee signings in terms of players. And, it's going to take a substantial investment. But that's the only way the Kings can become a major force, is that if someone opens the checkbooks and makes players an offer they can't refuse and gets his blue chip players in, do well in some competitions, maybe win a couple of trophies, and then that will attract the premier youth players who then will dream to play for the club one day, and you can become an elite club. But it's going to take a hell of a lot of a hell of a lot of money to do that. And if you take a look at the Sharks, they weren't even considered a thing in rugby before they won the Currie Cup. Their first Currie Cup was in 1990, and then they sort of became the team of the 90s. But before that, they were nothing. But, they put some money behind it. They got some marquee signings in. They signed half of Bloemfontein. Basically the Cheetahs became the Sharks Academy. You know what I mean? And they were willing to put money behind it, and the people of Durban liked what they saw. They supported this. They supported the team, filled up the stadium. Merch sales went up, all of it. So that's the process. Sign some marquee players, win some games, and build momentum. Because the whole thing is that I'm from the Eastern Cape originally. Okay, it's been promise after promise after promise since I can remember about how this is going to be a new era for EP rugby. It's like I'm done with even believing it anymore, And also, it's like these new investors that came in. You think to yourself, like, whoa, so there's going to be some big marquee names coming through and all the rest of it, and nothing happens. So, yeah, like I said, it's just going to be about getting an investor in, like an Abramovich or Sheikh Mansour type guy. I'm not saying he needs to be on that level in terms of money, but he needs to put that type of money in, not that type of soccer money, but that type of mentality into the club, and say, right, I'll take 100 million rand, which is actually bigger picture for like a billionaire. What is that, like $7-8 million, chucking it in over there? Rugby doesn't have the same barrier to entry financially as soccer does, but at the same time, it doesn't have the commercial viability of the sport. So, yeah, it's a tough one. It's not going to solve itself overnight. And like I said, I really thought these guys that bought in were going to do a bit more. But at the same time, why would you want to commit so many funds to it when you have to share 25% of the revenue with the EP Rugby Football Union? That's something you got to think about, right? So you can only own maximum 75% of a team. The other 25% has to be held by by the amateur arm. And if I've got a bunch of guys in the amateur arm that have been voted in by local clubs, and they're going to try and dictate to me what to do and how to spend the money and the rest of it, I'm not going to do it. The only way we're going to be able to get this thing to the next level is align 100% private ownership of the clubs. Because then I'd be more than willing, if I'm a wealthy guy, I'd be much more willing to chuck 100 million rand in there and maybe buy the stadium, sell the naming rights, develop a commercial brand and all the rest of it. But why am I going to do all that when, the amateur arms owns 25% and they're not putting any money into it? It doesn't make sense. So it's a pretty complex question. Yeah. 7, do you think Rassie is going to micromanage Nenoba? Do you think that's going to be a problem? To me, it seems like it's happening. Credits to Rassie and all, but I think Nenoba should be given more prominence, especially as a head coach. I think this has been their relationship from day dot. They've been working together like this for over 20 years or something like that. And it's worked. So, I don't know. We'll see the results. I mean, it's almost continuity, right? It's almost like Rassie is still basically coach. He just doesn't want to deal with the media rubbish and all the rest of that. So, yeah, it's interesting. But like I said, I think this has been their working relationship from day dot. So, yeah. It's continuity. It's a first. Think about it this way: it's the first time we've actually had continuity after a World Cup. The rest of the World Cups, even Jake White winning in 2007, he's still got the sack after that. So we've always lacked this continuity. So I'd like to see how it plays out. Next question, Pierre Rasmus. What do you think will happen to the matrics who depend on their rugby to go to university? I think the guys are noticed from a much younger age than we think, and I don't think it's going to affect the guys that are playing generally, because there's all sorts of footage and available. Scouts already know who the players are that they want, but at the same time, I think the people that the individuals that will be most affected are the ones that we can't know about, because if you're at a tournament like Craven Week, it takes one magic moment to make you stand out and get all the cameras on you and get all the attention on you, and then you become a household name overnight. But we can't predict who those players are going to be. So those are the guys that are going to suffer, I think. I think those are the guys that could have commanded a much bigger, starting salary at the various unions and all the rest of that. Next question, M. van der Vat. How about naming the top 10 schoolboy rugby fixtures that should have happened this year? I've got a video in the works. I'll release it later once we know fully what's happening with the season, and that will basically be the top 10 tragedies of the whole COVID situation, in terms of the rugby calendar. So, yeah, it's a good idea, and I'm definitely will be working on something similar. Maddie Kane, best school rugby player from SA who never got a professional contract. Difficult to say, because you also got to consider rugby was an amateur game for a long time. So I'll just say the Yuri Linder for me is one that I got wrong. I thought he would go a lot further. I'm not sure if he got a professional contract or not, but I was convinced he was going to be the next big thing. I don't know what's happening with him now, so I hope that answers your question. Next question. It's Mo. Which union is the best to go to as a prop coming out of high school? Look at who's ahead of you. See if you see a gap in terms of your pathway. Speak to some agents, and they'll probably put you on the right path. Next question. School rugby. Do you think schools rugby is about being the best or actually playing the teams you can beat? Double-edged sword. You got some guys that make sure they get friendly fixtures so they can maybe go through a season unbeaten, and others that take the more difficult path. That's why my ranking system is a lot different to other people's, because I consider the type of opposition played rather than their record over the season. So you might have a team that only loses 2 matches in a season, wins 16. I'll still rank a team that lost 5 and won 8, but have played top quality schools higher in a ranking system, for example. Next question, Mike Comlink SA. Where did your passion for schools rugby start? I've always been a casual observer of school rugby. I think we all have, anyone that played rugby at school. But I'd say my real passion started when I saw that Grey College versus Christchurch boys game. That's where it really started. And when I saw that game, it wasn't even rugby, it was art. That first 15-20 minutes of that game was like they turned rugby into an art form. And that's where this journey started. When I saw that game, I was like, I'm finding all of these games, I'm recording them, I'm going to start searching for information, I'm going to start logging stuff, I'm going to start doing a podcast. Everything just came together at one time because of that game. Especially when I saw Ian Smith's try. The one where the grubber went through. And I think that was their 4th try. I was just like, nah. this is unreal. Where is it going wrong for Springbok rugby? Because remember, this was the time, early 2018, I think Russia had just been hard, but we hadn't played any games. And the year before that, we had to watch our beloved Springboks get thumped 50-0 by the All Blacks. So it wasn't a good time to be a Springbok supporter, and that gave me a bit of hope for the future. Next question, Reinhard. Love your videos. Thank you. What schools do you think punches above their weight in South African rugby? Okay, there are two programs I really like, and I'm talking historically here. I like Bishops because I like the ethos, the tradition, all the rest of that. Beautiful rugby they play, and I also like their motto, running rugby since 1861. I think that says everything that you need to know about how they play their rugby. No numbers on the back of their jerseys because it's about the team and not the individual, which I absolutely love. So in terms of culture, I like Bishops, and they're always willing to take on all comers. Another school I got a high level of respect for, St Andrews College in Grahamstown, and the main reason for that is that, like, when you take a look at their first team, generally speaking, it's made up of players completely from that school, like hardly any scholarships, hardly any imports. And what you end up seeing with these schools is, with St Andrews specifically, is that they will start off as under 14As, getting pumped like 40, 50-0, 60-0, and through the coaching and the structures and the mentorship and all the rest of that, by the time these same guys have reached first team level, they become a top 20 school. And I've got a high level of respect for that. So I think those are two schools that really punch above their weight. Also because, the English schools, the Afrikaans schools are absolutely mad. And also, I'd have to say Boer and Landbou, because, they've only got like 200 odd boys, right? And they still produce amazing players, and they play hard rugby. So I'd say those three schools are the ones I think really punch above their weight. Jonathan 6840, who do you think will this corona affect the next year of rugby, since there's no Craven Week? I think, look, you already see that unions are signing players left, right, and centre from school. So I think the scouting system and also the footage that's available on television and all the rest of it, you basically, these guys know about the players from 13, 14 years of age, and they track them. So I think for the top level talent, not much will change. But like I said before, I think for those guys that could have made a real impression at Craven Week, it could have affected them. But we'd never know who these people will be, because you only know when the tournament's played. Anyway, that's it, guys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on it. I know it's long, but I try to answer everyone's questions. And let me know if you want me to do future videos like this. This has been over an hour, this video. So it's a hell of a long video. So let me know if you want it shortened. Let me know what sort of dynamic you'd like added to it or anything like that. And as always, have a great week further. Cheers, bye.